Okay, everyone. Welcome to the YLWRNGR show. And today I have a special guest. She is from New York, hence the phone conversation podcast version. YLWRNGR. How's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Hello. I just want to say thank you for taking your time out. I know it's a 3-hour difference, so I appreciate you taking out your time for the podcast.
Yeah, it's all good. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome. Okay. So I guess we'll start with intros. Can you tell us an intro about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Sure. My name is Lo Espejo. I am 28. I have to think about that one. Born and raised in New York. I'm currently a graphic designer, and I founded YLWRNGR, which is a blog and social media accounts about all things Asian American.
Awesome. That's very cool. So I found out about your account through Right Steady. I believe it's Eddie and Steffi in LA. And I assumed when we talked that you're in LA, but you're in New York.
Yeah. I get that a lot, actually. A lot of my followers are from, like, the West Coast, and they think that I'm from there as well. But nope, born and raised in New York.
Interesting. You know, I interviewed them yesterday.
Oh, awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. So this week is like a woke, socially conscious Philippine X podcast week.
Cool.
All right. So I guess we'll start with that, just kind of like from a Filipino perspective. What was your experience growing up as a second-generation Filipino American in Queens?
Yeah, so, I grew up in the 90s in Queens. My parents both came here when they were teenagers, both in the, like, Queens area. My dad was 17 and my mom was 19. It was dope. I had a bunch of cousins, so I didn't even feel like an only child, and we were all very close in age, like a couple months, couple years apart. It was great. I went to a Catholic school. So did a few of my cousins, from, I guess, kindergarten to first grade. Then we moved, and then I started going to public school. It was pretty cool. Like, I was always around the Filipino community, especially when I grew up in Jamaica.
Nice.
And, yeah, like, when I moved to Bayside when I was in second grade, that's when I started being around, like, more Asian. So I guess, like, more East Asian, Koreans, Chinese people, Japanese people. But, yeah, I always grew up around people of color, even in Jamaica, like, a lot of West Indian and, like, Black people in that community.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you know, I've never been to New York. I don't know much about the Filipino community in New York. I think from Aquafina, I always assumed that majority of like Asian Americans lived in Flushing. Is that right?
yes, there's a ton in Flushing.
Is that in Queens?
Queens?
I don't know
Yeah.
where that is.
Yeah, so basically New York City is broken up into 5 boroughs. Queens is the biggest one, and then you have Manhattan, which everyone calls the city, and the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. And so, yeah. In Queens, I guess you could say it's a huge Asian community, but also a lot of Eastern European people, Jewish people, things like that, yeah.
I know there's like a little Russia there, I believe. I saw some movies that had like I think, was it Coney Island or was it like a beach?
Yes,
I don't know.
Coney Island is in Brooklyn, and that's like a beach sort of like amusement park area.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm familiar with the names of the 5 boroughs and everything because I'm a big fan of hip-hop. I make hip-hop music. I love New York hip-hop, but if you put it on a map, I would have no idea where they're all at. So I'm also very curious as to New York. Most of the listeners I want to say will be also from the West Coast. I hear there's a big difference about people's attitudes and how they go about the day-to-day. Like New York, I hear is a lot quicker. It's like the New York minute, whereas West Coast people are more like laid back. People smile more. My friends visited to New York. They're from California and LA, and while they were there, they just noticed like not as people were friendly, but not like smiling. And someone said, "Oh, are y'all from Cali?" Like, yeah. How can you tell? Because you guys smile and stuff when you like walk and talk
That's really
in
funny.
public. Is this true, or is it kind of like a exaggerated stereotype?
I think it's mostly true for sure.
Really?
New Yorkers are always on the go. We always like en route to somewhere, and like since it's so crowded here, like there's so many types of different characters and personalities. You kind of just like are in your own world when you're moving around, you know, because you see it all. So if you paid attention to all the craziness that went around, you wouldn't get to where you're going.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think one thing that one of my Cali cousins told me about New York is that we do a lot of walking.
Oh.
And from what I've heard from people in Cali is people barely walk. Like you guys drive everywhere. And in New York, if you live in the city, if you live in the 5 boroughs, you could get around on the subway, on the bus, public transportation, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like common for people to not even get their license or their permit because they just get around with their Metro card. Yeah.
Would you like to know something interesting?
Yeah, sure.
I don't have a car. I never had a car.
Really? So how do you get around?
Well, I mean, there was like that stereotype, right? Oh, you need a car and everything, but I just had a bad experience like learning how to drive. I mean, eventually I got my license and I know how to drive. It's not well, but I mainly just figured out, you know, bus, bike, and now there's Uber and Lyft. And plus, you know, what people don't take into account is like the payments for a car, like gas, insurance, possible accidents, tickets, maintenance. Can't afford that, but I can afford my little single speed bike. You know, I can pump air in it once in a while. I walk it. It's cool, you know. But I've never had to really rely on a car, and I'm 30 years old. You know, I've never really got in a car, so I like the walking, and I appreciate that. I think you stay fit in that sense, and I think public transportation, you get a feel for different people, you know, like kind of just all walks of life. So in a sense, there's like that learning or engagement thing going on.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely meet all kinds of people, and I don't know what it is about me, but I'm the kind of person that strangers come up to me and like tell me their whole life and feel really comfortable with me. So, you know, waiting on the bus or waiting for the subway or just even sitting next to somebody, I've heard all types of stuff.
How does that make you feel?
I don't know. I feel like I'm an empath, so even if they didn't tell me what's going on, I could kind of sense people's energy, even if I don't know who they are. So it's cool. I mean, I feel like I just kind of hear what they're saying. Some people just want to be heard, you know?
Right.
And in a big city like New York, it's easy to get caught up in, you know, everything. It's not an easy city to live in for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even want to start with the rent prices, how high your rent is in New York and everything, but
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so growing up, it seems like you have a pretty similar Filipino-American experience growing up in the East Coast. You're surrounded by lots of Filipinos.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess it goes the same for West Coast. Me, I didn't really have too many Filipino friends growing up. Predominantly like white neighborhoods. So I kind of lost touch of the Filipino roots. But year-round Filipino culture, that's good. So I guess like it all just depends, I guess, on the situation and everything. And it seems like you come from a Filipino community.
Yeah, for sure. Like my dad's aunt, she's kind of like, you know, our Lola or whatever, and she was a part of the Ilocano Association. And she would always have these events, and we would always attend, and they were always at our church. So it was definitely always around a bunch of Filipinos. And just like my parents to this day are friends with the friends that they made when they first came here. So it's always been around other Filipinos. Yeah.
Nice. And from what I can observe, it doesn't seem like you have that like New York accent. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Like I can kind of tell. Yeah.
Wait, you said that I do have it?
You do not. I can't tell at the moment.
Some people tell me I do, but I don't know. I don't really think I do.
Say water. It's like one telltale sign.
Water?
Oh, okay. You know, I guess people say water sometimes, or I don't know.
Water.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's like that, you know, Italian sort of like accent that people like say is the like New York accent, but nah.
Because with Aquafina, when I listen to her talk, I can tell like there's, I guess it's like one, well, that's like one like New York accent. I can tell like she's not from California for sure. Like.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
All right, so we got a little sidetracked. So did you end up going to college, and if so, what was your major?
Yeah, I did. I went to St. John's University in Queens. Because for high school I lived in Long Island, and I kind of missed like being in that area, so I was like, let me just go to St. John's. My cousin went to St. John's and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I went to St. John's and I majored in graphic design, and I minored in Spanish.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
What did your parents say when you, hey, I want to do graphic design in Spanish and minor in Spanish? Were they supportive?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is very like practical, so she was like, if you're gonna do art, you need to do the kind of art that's gonna make you money.
Right.
She didn't really say that, but that's kind of what she was going off of. And I was really lucky in high school. I went to a trade high school for my junior and senior year. Where they had automotive, cosmetology, architecture, and they had graphic design. So I did that my junior and senior year, and I just knew, like, that's what I wanted to do.
That's so cool.
The reason why I wanted to get into art to begin with is because when my dad was growing up, he he loved art and he loved drawing and all that kind of stuff. So he sort of had me kind of young, and he never got to really pursue that. So I wanted to kind of like continue that.
Nice.
And I had an interest in it as well. So when I told my parents, like, this is what I want to do, I think my dad was kind of proud of the fact that I was kind of like carrying the torch or whatever. And yeah,
awesome.
we're pretty open to it, yeah.
Apparently I've seen old drawings my dad does, and he's super good. Like, I was like, wow, you did this kind of thing. But I think, well, him and my mom had me unexpectedly at a very young age, so he had to really kind of just, do something financially stable that can support my mom and myself, sending money back to the Philippines. That's really cool. I ask this with every Filipino guest I have. Was there ever pressure for you to join the medical field, i.e. become a nurse or a doctor?
I wouldn't say pressure, but it was definitely talked about a lot. I will say that, like, one of my older relatives, when they found out that this is what I was going to do, they were just like, you're not going to make any money in art. And I never forgot that, even to this day. Like,
it's harsh.
When people usually tell me no, I kind of, like, try to prove them wrong, and in the end, it's like, why am I trying to prove them wrong? Like, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. So it's like, yeah. So that really fueled me for a long time. I was like, I'm definitely going to do my best and, like, do make money doing art, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. I get the same notion from family members, like, well, you should get like an office job or something that will give you a pension, preferably government, because it's safe. It's like almost recession proof and you get paid well. But my argument is like, well, if my heart isn't into it and it like stops my creativity, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of having all the money and security and benefits when you're not happy?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, because it's like you just spend your whole life. It's like our time is so precious. You know what I mean? Like why would we waste it not being happy and doing something that somebody else wants us to do? I think I realized pretty young, like, wait a minute, my parents, this is not their life. Like, this is actually my life. Like, they've led me up until this point, and it was their responsibility to make sure I got here, but this is still my life. And when I realized that, I was like, holy shit, I gotta start doing stuff for me and not for them. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Because I know some friends or some people have experienced the whole, we sacrifice so much for you, we sacrifice so much to get to this country for you to do this kind of thing,
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
places such a heavy, burden and guilt on the person. And it's just like, well, I disrespect my family. They did sacrifice that, but you're right. It's our life. In a sense, you can say and flip it. We sacrifice all this so I can do what I want, not what I have to do to make money.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Like this
So
is
yeah.
why they came here to begin with, is that
Mhm.
so we could follow our dreams.
Right, right. And I understand from their viewpoint. Their generation's a lot different from ours. Becoming a graphic designer or a musician or a YouTube person, an individual influencer was unheard of in their time. It didn't exist. So now
Yeah.
there's
Of course.
more opportunities. I feel like they're going very traditional routes, which I understand, but I understand it's a new generation as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you say you are a graphic designer. Can you describe to us any obstacles you might have faced or have faced in the graphic design / art world due to you being a Filipino American woman?
I guess the biggest challenge I faced, especially when I first started at art school, it was just like finding my voice and what I
Mhm.
wanted my work to be about.
Mhm.
Because when you're in college, you're just the whole, finding yourself era. So I was like, what kind of work do I want to be remembered for? So I was just trying to figure out like what I was about and what I wanted my message to be.
Mhm.
Obstacles? Yeah, I think that was my number one. And just like, there was just a lot of white people like in my major, and there was people of color or whatever, but it was disproportionate.
Mhm.
So just making sure that like I felt represented
Mhm.
and like not other, I would
Right.
say, and like felt like I fit in. Because there's two art worlds. There's like the highbrow art world where it's like the wine and cheese and the museums and the big institutions and all that kind of stuff. And then
Mhm.
there's also like the quote, like for lack of a better term, lowbrow art where it's like things like graffiti, street art, things
Tattoo.
like that. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
me coming from Queens, it's like which world do I want to be a part of? So
Right.
I would say that was my biggest obstacle, just finding my voice.
Speaking of the world's parts, do you identify with both, or do you kind of identify more with one with the other?
Identify which.
Like highbrow art, lowbrow art, both?
Oh, I would say lowbrow all the way. I
Mhm.
mean, I have friends that are graffiti artists, street artists, whatever
Nice.
you want to call them, and like I grew up around, seeing a bunch of beautiful murals, and like when 5 Points was such a big
I heard
deal.
about
5 Points,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So 5 Points was this area where all these amazing graffiti artists and street muralists, just like had free reign pretty much. And
Mhm.
sadly, a couple of years ago, the city just painted it all white, and it was like such a loss
Right.
that the art community felt, especially the underground art community. It just felt like we couldn't win, and so many people fought to keep it. You know what I mean? Like to keep it and preserve it, but
Mhm.
it just sucks. Like I haven't been in that area since because it's not the same. I
Right.
would hate to even just experience like
I can imagine.
what it is now.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I got into graffiti a little bit in high school. I was tagging up bathrooms and stuff in school, and then they
Yeah.
something about the rush of, and obviously it's, in a sense it's wrong, you're defacing property, but something about the rush, someone possibly seeing it, and then people looking at it later. Long story short, I was partially responsible for the school closing down all the men's bathrooms, so my friends weren't too happy about that.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
So what did you guys end up? Where did you guys have to go?
I believe there were porta potties we could go to, but just like the main bathrooms are closed. And one of my friends got
Yeah.
caught, but he didn't tell on me, which is great. But yeah, I love lowbrow art. I help out at a tattoo shop, and I'm a big fan of tattoos, and I think that also kind of
Oh, that's
counts as
awesome.
lowbrow. Okay, so going more towards you having the alias Yellow Ranger, how did that name come about?
Well, basically it was really inspired by the Power Rangers and
Mm-hmm.
especially the Yellow Ranger,
Rest in peace.
Trini.
Yeah.
She was the first time. It was the first time that I saw someone that looked like me and my cousins. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't look typically East Asian, but to
Right.
see someone who was like me, who grew up like me, who was strong but smart, you know what I mean? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I loved her going. I was always the Yellow Ranger. I was never the Pink Ranger ever. And when Aquafina came out with that song Yellow Ranger, I was like, yo, that's my vibe right there. Like, I love the Yellow Ranger growing up, and that's
Mm-hmm.
everything that song is about, like women's empowerment and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It just was like, this is what I want the socials and the blog to be about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you ever?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did this on purpose. The creators had the Yellow Ranger Asian, the Black Ranger Black. I don't think
Yeah.
it's a coincidence. But
No, for sure. But,
the
like,
fir-
I was real, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, like, I really created it because I couldn't find something like it. Like, I was looking for a community, like, where Asian Americans were talking about the latest news, culture, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, why haven't I come across this yet? Like, I'm the demographic, you know? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
really weird. So I said I basically created it out of necessity for myself. And then once I created it, I stumbled across the whole world where all that stuff lived. And I was like, yo,
Yeah.
we got to get these things really out there so that, like, our youth can discover it and, like, really have these platforms where they feel like they're being represented
I
correctly.
agree.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say it's how I felt when I took ethnic studies, Asian American studies. I learned about my history and Asian American history, and it
Mhm.
resonated with me because I related to it, and it wasn't just that mainstream history. Because prior to that, I didn't know much about Filipinos. You know, it was mainly just,
Yeah.
like, World War II nurses, but the experience and all the Asian Americans, all the Asians that migrated here, so I totally agree. And piggybacking on what the first time you saw yourself on TV, the first time I saw myself on TV was Dante Bosco, I believe, in Hook, where he was
Yeah.
Rufio.
Yes.
I was like, whoa, that's
I was
mainstream. And
like, whoa. Well, who's
yeah.
that brown dude? He looks like me, talks like me. Like, who is
hmm
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree representation. And when I saw Aquafina, I was like, oh my god, it's so awesome. It's an Asian rapper, and it's interesting how I don't know, yeah, it's so cool to see an Asian female rapper, Asian American woman rapper, is like also Rocky Rivera.
Mhm.
It's just
Yeah.
so cool to see that, and I love.
Ruby Ibarra.
Oh, dude, yeah, she's powerful messages, but yeah, I just love that seeing women strive and succeed, especially in hip hop where there's not too many Asians, let alone Asian American women. So that's pretty cool.
Agreed.
Let's see. I guess one thing we decided to talk about was colorism in Asian American communities.
Mhm.
Would you like to talk more about that? Like,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely knew growing up that there was more of like a favoritism or like some sort of like admiration of my
hmm
cousins that were lighter skinned or like looked East Asian, like looked Korean and like had that very, very fair skin and
right.
very, very jet black hair, you know what I mean? Like almond
hmm
eyes, like that whole look was sort of like it's always pointed out, and it's also pointed out if like, you know, your nose is a certain way or you're mestizo or you're darker or you're
Right.
this or you're that. Like it's always pointed out if you look a certain way, if you look typically Filipino or if you
hmm
stray a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
always like how we looked was always pointed out somehow. and there was like an importance placed upon it. So I didn't really realize how damaging that was until I grew up, you know, and you know, your aunts are saying, you know, get out of the sun, you're gonna get too dark. Like, I didn't realize until I grew up, like, wait, what's so wrong about being dark? You know what I mean?
I have a flat nose, and I didn't like my nose growing up. I remember in the Philippines, you're like, do this thing with your nose, the bridge of your nose, where you like pinch it so you grow like so it's not flat anymore. So for a long time, I didn't like having a flat nose, and in the Philippines, definitely colorism is rampant, more rampant there than here. You know, TFC, none of the people in there, the cast, the media, the news, they don't look Filipino
brown
at all. They don't look Filipino at all. Like,
at all. And they have all the half, you know, white actors on there, and it's just like, what? And I remember my uncle, he had like a whitening soap, and then there's also blackening, like darkening shampoo for your hair, and I'm like, it wasn't until like I actually went to the Philippines for the first time when I was 17 that I saw like how common that was, like in pharmacies and things like that. Yeah. And I was like, yo, that's crazy.
It is. I went there a couple of years ago. I was like appalled. Like, what are they doing? Like, why is this ingrained? And it's the media. You know, you see the media. These people represented don't look like you. I only can imagine like what that does to the psyche. You know, you breed like self-hate. You buy these soaps to lighten your skin, and it's just, to me, I always wonder, like, is that safe? Like, you're kind of like erasing your melanin. That doesn't sound
safe. It's like
safe.
colonized mentality. You know what I mean? Start believing in what they tell you is the ideal beauty. You know.
And also, too, I think it's like a sign of like wealth. Like, if you have lighter skin, you're not out in the fields all day. You know, it's an assumption. Yeah. So, yeah, I never experienced too much of that, but I was super light when I was younger, and I went to Hawaii once, and I'm stuck now. But yeah, it's interesting how that can affect. I don't know if it affects women more than men, but I don't know. It's just interesting how that plays out. And one of my relatives in the Philippines like gets bleaches her skin, and I was like, I was kind of perplexed, but I understand at the same time. If you have lighter skin, you have more opportunities as jobs and stuff. So I really can't blame the people, but just more the system of why it's placed.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I never had like aunts comment about like my skin color or anything. I mean, it's interesting how in the West having a tan is like it's really cool because it's not cool to be pale or whatever. But reverse, like it's weird how Philippines, the paler you are, the prettier you are. But out in the West, it's like if you got a tan, it's like you have time to relax and stuff. So.
I know all these tanning salons and all that kind of stuff. I remember one person, like, I didn't really grow up around a lot of white people, but when I went to high school, I went to a predominantly white high school. So I was like, you know, part of a very small group of people of color that went to my school. And I remember one girl asked me, it was like this was like, you know, the time of Jersey Shore and all that crap. Tanning was a huge thing, you know, tanning was huge. And those Long Island girls, forget it. They love it. So I remember one of them asked me, where do you get your tan done? And I just looked at her like what? I was so shocked. Like, nobody ever asked me that. Yeah. And I was like, I literally was just like, what do you mean? She's like, how do you get that color? I was like, I was born like this. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? And I just remember feeling so, like, uncomfortable and, like, caught off guard by that.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people, Caucasian white people, oh, my gosh, I'm so jealous. You tan so easily. You have such tan skin. And I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of cool. I guess it's interesting, you know, whereas, you know, people back home, they would do anything to get rid of it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. And, like, I also know, I don't want to speak too much on it, but I also know in the African-American community, there's always the jokes, like the light-skin jokes versus the dark-skin jokes kind of thing. I see that on Instagram and stuff. At what age did you become kind of like socially aware or quote-unquote woke? and the obstacles AAPI have faced or are facing. Did you take ethnic studies in college, in high school?
No, I didn't.
Interesting.
I think I started realizing it like after I went to the Philippines.
Mm.
I was 17 and I didn't realize like how much I had, you know.
Mhm.
And once I saw like the difference in like what wealth is in America to like what wealth is there,
Right.
I was like, yo, why am I so concerned with like these material things? Like these people have way less than that and they're so happy. You know what I mean? So like what's the true value of happiness, you know? And in college I took this sort of like, I don't even know how you call it. It was a theology class, right? But basically the whole class was this nun, and she was telling us about all this social justice stuff, like talking about corporations and how they're taking over the world, and like naming all these terrible things that these corporations are doing, and it just blew my mind. I was like, what? Like they're allowed to do this? Like, so after taking that class and after visiting the Philippines and then, like, seeing the world from a different perspective, I think that's when I started realizing, like, hold up, like, wow, like, there have been people who are fighting for our basic civil rights and then still happening to this day. So I would say around that era, like, 17 and, like, in college, I started realizing, the true issues that our community face.
Yeah, because there's that what's called model minority, where Asians have it good, they have good grades, they have high incomes, they're naturally smart, they're studious, they're hard workers, and that stereotype particularly like hurt me, and I didn't realize it. Especially in high school, like I was horrible at math and horrible like science. I was not the best student, and then I had like, you know, a group of friends or acquaintances that were just like going for Ivy League schools, like AP classes, honors, and I was like, am I not like, is it not my genes? Like, how come they're doing like trigonometry and like calculus, and I'm like stuck doing like geometry, failing algebra twice? Yeah, I thought there was like, what's wrong with me kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I know. It's super damaging because like, just growing up, like, that mold is just like, if you don't fit it, it's like, people, like, the world doesn't see you that way because of this image that has been placed upon you. And the whole origin of it is like, the model minority is to show, like, the other minorities, like, oh, this is what you should be doing. So that in of itself is damaging because now you're putting people of color against each other.
Yeah. And I always got upset when everyone was like, I thought you're good at math, you're Asian. When I showed them my math kit, I'm like, dude, no. And like, and I feel for the kids that still have to live up to this expectation. You know, like there's a lot of stress and pressure to make it to these Ivy League schools where, you know, it just, I don't know, you know, like you're forced to take these like piano lessons and stuff, which is good, I guess, but like, you know, what does a kid want, and just the pressure from it, I can imagine, like, you know, there's like, you start unhealthy behaviors, self-harm, you know, all this other stuff that, you know, affects us. And, you know, as you probably know, like, for a lot of Southeast Asian communities, they came here on different reasons of why many of us came here. They came here through, like, Vietnam War and all this, and, you know, their experience is not model minority, you know, it's hard for them. So like, and then it's like putting everyone in an umbrella. It's problematic.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Let's see. What? Oh, sorry. Just 1 second. Sorry, I lost the notes. Okay. All right. So when did you start Yellow Ranger blog?
I started the socials like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook September of 2016.
Okay.
And then I started the blog or more of my like written work and all that kind of stuff last year.
Mhm. Very cool. I'm looking at the website now. I found out an artist Lex the Lexicon through your page.
Oh, you did? Yeah,
Yeah.
she's dope.
Yeah. And I also saw the. Did you see the YouTube short series Yappy?
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. I recommend it. It talks about it talks about issues like Asian Americans face, in America. It's like a drama slash comedy. Highly recommend it
Oh,
on
what's it
YouTube.
called?
Yappie, I believe it's Yappie, and I believe it's made by Wong Fu, or the.
Oh, I do know Wong Fu. I just haven't heard of that. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, it touched on yellow fever, Asian fetishization, Asian guys they're seen as undesirable, all that stuff that I think should be discussed because it's not really discussed in mainstream media. It's all all Asian cast for the most part.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. This looks dope. I'm definitely gonna take a look. I love Wong Fu. I've been watching them since they first started.
Yeah, and once again, it's Asian representation because we don't have that outlet because people think Asians are, you're studious, you're not into having fun, you're always about hitting the books and stuff.
Yep.
Did that movie Crazy Rich Asian ever come out? I keep some stuff about it, mixed reviews.
Yeah, it's coming out August 15th.
Mhm.
I think there might have been, screenings already happening because a bunch of people have seen it, but no, officially it comes out in theaters August 15th.
Okay. Very cool. And we'll talk about your podcast coming out soon called You Had Me Yellow. Can you talk to us about that?
You Had Me at Yellow.
Oh, Yellow, yeah.
You Had Me at Yellow. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely just gonna be another extension of Yellow Ranger, the socials and the blog and stuff like that. It's gonna be pretty dope. I've gotten so much people reaching out to me wanting to be guests and things like that, so I've been overwhelmed, but it's just so welcome,
Nice.
So basically
definitely.
it's just gonna be a safe space where Asian Americans can come to just air it all out. It's gonna be a proverbial soapbox for the community. Right. Because I feel the more we share about our experiences, the more we can understand each other and the more other people can understand us. Definitely. And that way we'll have a more accurate representation when it comes to film, TV, and even literature,
Yeah. And it sucks how our characters are not played by our ethnicity group, it's the same. Ghost in the Shell, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's basically just going to be, all things social justice, self-love, inclusion, things like that.
Right. All right. Do you have any advice for anyone who's interested in pursuing an arts/graphic design career? Or women in particular, I guess.
For women? I would just say always believe you're just as good. You know what I mean? Don't get into the whole comparing your work against someone else. Because talent, if talent doesn't work hard, they won't succeed. And there's always going to be talented people. There's always going to be people who are better than you. But if you work hard, you'll do way better than them. Because I've gone to school with kids who are just OD talented. They don't even have to do anything, and just genius just comes out of them. But they don't have that drive. They don't have that ambition, so they didn't really get far. But the people who grinded and took extra classes online and always took every design project and freelance and this and that, they're out here making it. You know what I'm saying? So it's don't let the whole comparison bring you down, because if you really work hard and you try to really hone in and perfect your craft, that's what's most important.
Totally agree, and stuff like this takes time, patience and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else you'd like to talk about? Anything to highlight in this podcast?
I would just say keep an eye out. Stay tuned for my podcast. I'm gonna launch it in October.
Okay.
I'm super excited about it, and I guess you could follow Yellow Rangers at YLWRNGR on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to follow me, I'm at Lo Espejo, Lauren, and then Espejo.
Awesome. One more question. Do you speak or understand any Filipino dialects?
Yeah, I speak a little bit, but I understand Tagalog and I understand Ilocano as well.
Oh, nice. I can understand and speak Tagalog and Kapampangan very little. I used to know more, but over time I kind of forgot it. So.
Yeah, I know, me too, because my parents mainly speak to us in English.
Interesting.
Yeah, so when I was like around my grandparents and stuff, like that's the only time I would really hear it, and then just like around my family as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, older relatives would ask me in Tagalog, do you still know how to speak? And over time I would feel less, and then like they would try talking to me in Tagalog, and I'd be so clueless, I'd kind of nod my head, okay. And then I feel like my
I can
dad
definitely understand, yeah.
Like I think my dad only spoke to me like one phrase in Tagalog, like from what I recall, besides being in the Philippines. It was in like 2003. We were at a New Year's party. It's crazy how he can switch so quickly from English to like Tagalog in a second.
The one thing I always ask native speakers is like, what language do you think in, you know?
Yeah, he was like, oh, do you still know? He was like, Dasaka. I think it's Kapampangan for do you still know how? I'm like, what? Oh, okay, cool. And then just carried on. Ever since then, all English. So, interesting. Well, thank you again for the podcast. I think that wraps it up. We got all the questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been
all
great.
Right. Thank you so much, the Von Cash Show. Thank you.